Asian DUB Foundation on Pure Channel. Thank you very much, Steve, for being with us.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure. You releasing a new record, History of Now.
Yeah.
Before talking about that very new record, I'd like to talk about the beginnings of the band. Maybe the youngest don't remember.
Well, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. I do remember seeing you in a lot of festivals and all that stuff. But when you first arrived and when you found it, it was in 1993, something like
93, 94,
yeah. You were rooted in a very social context, you know, about learning the kids' music. Yeah. You still are very political. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I do think we'll talk about the video of History of Now.
Oh, okay.
How did you start it? What did you want it to be learning to the young people?
I mean, at the time, it was just about music technology, basic ways to make music, encouraging a sort of collective way of making music. Yeah. And also encouraging, I mean, at the time, it was jungle, you know, what was called jungle, the preceding music to drum and bass. And that was very exciting, and it was very much coming from the streets, you know, the inner cities. And it was about encouraging, it was mainly Asian people at the time, to have a bit of self-confidence and to have confidence in their own creativity. That was the roots of it, yeah. And the band came from that.
Yeah, came from there. It was a lot about DJing at the very beginning also, learning the DJ.
It was more actually, it was more about programming and sampling. But the kind of thing we were teaching then is massively outdated now. You know what I mean? This is before laptops, before. This is when you had hardware sequencers and samplers, you know.
Now they learn that stuff at 7, you think?
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, a lot of what we did then has been really, it's been overtaken.
You were talking about the jungle style and all that stuff. But when you first released your record, did you have the sensation, for instance, in France, your music has been always received in a very, open and happy way?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was a trip-hop time in England, isn't it?
In England, it wasn't. Well, trip-hop was around, yeah, but the main thing was Britpop, you know, which was a revival of 60s kind of cliches, you know.
So did you feel you had more response in France or other countries?
Initially in France, yeah. First off in France, yeah.
I'd like to talk about the politic, which is on your record too. I mean, the lyrics. Mm-hmm. Do you think about identity,
No, not anymore. All this stuff about identity, I think it's become quite damaging. Actually, I think it's damaging.
Why is that?
I think it's worse now. Because I think, well, we could get into very complicated issues if you want, but we'll be here all day. But I think, I can't talk for France, but in Britain, I think certain approaches have created problems. Yeah, sure, like, when we started, it was really important to talk about identity because the British Asians hadn't really had a voice. Okay. We had a lot to talk about, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But now, that kind of sort of natural inclination to talk about yourself, your background, your identity, questions of identity, it became sort of institutionalized, right? I get that. And now, over the past decade, I think, in Britain, it's become... You get a sense that it's better to split off from each other, right? To divide up into separate groups, and then demand money from the state on that basis. Do you understand what I'm saying? I do understand. And I think that's damaging. You know, if you say, well, look, if we get together, if we're a group of, say, I'm going to set up a Muslim youth organisation, right? So only Muslim youth will come in. And then we can get money from the government. And then you get like, well, we're going to set up a young black Christian association, right? And so only young black Christians can come to our group, and then we'll get money from the government. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
to fund it. Then you automatically give a reason for people to split off from each other, right? And that is where I think the real problematic side of people getting into groups and shouting about their identity is you create bureaucrats that want, you know, they want to keep it that way. We're about getting people together. I think about Asian DUB Foundation, we wanted to tell our story, but the story was for everyone, and everyone can be involved, you know what I mean? you know, and but I think that in the wider society in Britain, I think that identity politics has created a lot of divisions.
It seems the album is, you had that punk influence before,
Yeah.
but a lot of songs are really, really punk, I think. Where is the money gone?
Yeah.
Could be a, I don't know.
Well, you see, the thing is, I mean, the important thing about ADF is that underlying it all is a very strong sense of rhythm. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what you put on top. Yeah, if you could turn the guitars up, or you could, you know, turn such and such up, but underneath you've got that very strong rhythmic sense, and that's what distinguishes us, I think. That's why we're not a rock band. You know what I mean? You know, because most rock music doesn't have the kind of grooves that we have. It has the opposite. It's not particularly groovy.
Yeah, and also, is it that root structure, that rhythm structure,
Yeah.
that allows you to take your time in the songs? Because when you listen to the whole record, I don't want to make generalities, but all the songs are around 4 minutes. Whatever.
Yeah.
It takes the time to get into your lyrics, to get into your voices. You know, that very groovy background.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It is a hybrid. You know, so. You know, to establish the tune, you need to establish the rhythm. I think with Asian Dub.
You start with that when you compose?
I don't think there's one particular method of composition. Normally a lyrical idea will come separately from a musical one, and then they'll kind of come together somehow, you know. It's quite magical, I think, the original spark for a song.
Is the lyrics, do you feel the music is sometimes painting, giving the atmosphere of the lyrics?
Absolutely, yeah. Totally, yeah. Me personally, particularly, that's what I consider to be the most important thing. It's a unity of the sound and the word.
There are surprises, I think, on that record. For instance, Power of 10.
Oh yeah.
That very soft ambient music.
Yeah.
You needed that song to chill out in the record, you think?
I think it has that purpose, but it is slightly different. It's not. It's not so different from what we've done on some other albums. There's been a couple of other tracks like that. I think the thing is about that song is the 10-beat cycle. It's very sort of Indian classical, you know. And that's the important thing. It's a hypnotic rag, you know.
Question also about the video, which is the pictures. It's a part of the identity. You've done a video on History of Now, taking the picture of what's happening now.
Well, in Tunisia, we didn't do that personally.
Yeah, I mean the band is releasing that.
No, we haven't released
that. It's a fan that did that.
Yeah. Well, it's spontaneous, you know.
What do you think?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's actually better than the other video, and make the voices of the crowds and stuff make the track better. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. I think it's amazing.
Even Future Proof, if it's not the lyrics on that, there's that very dark urgent. Are you still optimistic about England, for instance, future?
Optimistic? Well, I don't know. I don't think we're particularly optimistic or pessimistic. You know, I suppose there was that guy, Gramsci, the Italian guy, who said, pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah, definitely.
It was a pleasure for me, Steve. Asian Dub Foundation, new album, A History of Now, and you can catch them on live, of course, in France and wherever, you're playing everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is just a little warm-up, this show today, but then we got the gig at the Élysée-Montmartre.
Yeah.
I think is that 4th of April or
4th of April. 4th of April.
I think so. I could be wrong.
So you can see the whole band there, 4th of April in the Élysée-Montmartre. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Yes.